it's a terrible thing. I always got along very good with Savannah. Very unusual situation, but we're going to find out.
The U.S. president confirmed he spoke with Savannah Guthrie and ordered federal law enforcement to assist in the search for her mother, calling the case a serious national concern. Imagine this. It's a quiet evening in a peaceful Arizona neighborhood. The sun has dipped behind the mountains. The streets are silent, almost frozen in time. Inside one modest home, an elderly woman, 84 years old, is going about her usual evening routine. She checks her phone. She tidies up her living room. She prepares for a night's sleep. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. And then she disappears. No note, no phone call, no trace left behind. By morning, the impossible is clear. Nancy Guthrie, a grandmother, a mother, a beloved family member, has vanished without a single clue. This is not a movie plot. This is not a case from decades ago. This is happening right now in modern America. What makes this case extraordinary isn't just the disappearance itself. It's the circumstances surrounding it. Her home shows no sign of a break-in. Neighbors report nothing unusual. And yet, the sense of unease is immediate. Law enforcement is puzzled. Federal agencies are called in. And the question that haunts everyone: how can someone simply vanish from their home in broad daylight in a society that prides itself on security and safety? Nancy Guthrie is not a person who sought attention. She is quiet, careful, predictable. She loves routines, enjoys simple pleasures, and lives a life free of drama. And yet, her disappearance has captured national attention. Why? Because she is not just any grandmother. Nancy Guthrie is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, one of America's most recognizable journalists. The stakes suddenly feel larger, and the eyes of the nation turn toward this quiet Arizona neighborhood. On the evening before her disappearance, everything seems normal. The house is calm, the lights are warm. Her favorite tea sits on the counter, untouched. A book lies open on the couch. There is no indication that the ordinary will soon be shattered. But sometimes, it is the quiet moments that make the most sudden disappearances feel surreal. The question that nags everyone: what could have interrupted an 84-year-old woman's peaceful night? Let's imagine walking through Nancy's neighborhood that night. Streetlights flicker softly over perfectly maintained lawns. The occasional car passes, and the hum fades into silence. Dogs do not bark. Neighbors do not notice anything out of place. And inside that house, Nancy prepares for bed. She might not know that the ordinary world she trusts so much is about to change. There's a chilling thought. How many times do we take safety for granted? How often do we believe our homes are untouchable? Because that evening, something beyond understanding occurs. When the first signs of her absence appear the next morning, the shock ripples immediately. Neighbors notice that her usual routine is broken. Her morning walk does not happen. Her newspaper sits unread. The daily rhythm, so predictable, is suddenly missing. Her family, initially assuming she might have gone out for errands, grows concerned as hours pass. By midday, the worry turns into alarm. By evening, authorities are involved. The questions multiply. Where could she have gone? Who might know something? And most importantly, why has no one seen or heard anything? Picture her home again. The furniture untouched. Her slippers by the door. The kettle still warm from the evening tea. Everything in its place, except Nancy. Investigators will later note that no forced entry exists. Doors locked from the inside. Windows secure. Nothing about this scene fits the normal patterns of disappearance. And that is what makes it deeply unsettling, even in a world accustomed to crime dramas, mysteries, and news reports of missing persons. Local police are the first to respond. They speak with neighbors. They check cameras. They search her home. But as the evening turns to night, the reality becomes unavoidable. Nancy Guthrie has vanished. No sign of a struggle. No witnesses. No immediate explanation. And the case takes a turn that few missing person reports do, the involvement of federal authorities. This is where the story deepens. When the FBI joins a disappearance case, it is rarely ordinary. Their involvement signals urgency, complexity, and sometimes the unthinkable. For viewers, this is the moment that transforms curiosity into obsession. Because the questions are not just about the what or the where, but about the how and the why. How does an 84-year-old woman disappear from a home she has lived in for decades? Why did no one notice anything unusual? And what could the investigators be seeing that the public cannot? Tonight, we begin the story of Nancy Guthrie. Not with answers, but with questions. Questions that will lead us into her life, her routines, and the events leading up to the night she disappeared. Questions that will follow the investigation, the family's search, and the uncertainty that grips an entire community. And above all, questions that may never be fully answered. Because sometimes, the darkest side of America is not what happens outside your home, but what can happen inside it, silently, without warning. Before we dive into the mystery, we need to understand who Nancy Guthrie really was. Not just a missing person, not just a grandmother in Arizona. Nancy was someone who lived a quiet, careful life. She had routines that neighbors could set their watches by. She valued independence, but never isolated herself. She loved books, had a favorite spot in her living room to watch sunsets, and always had tea ready in the evenings. For decades, this was her world, predictable, peaceful, safe. And in that predictability lies the shock of her disappearance. Nancy Guthrie was a mother, a grandmother, and a woman who maintained close ties with her family. Her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, is a household name in the United States, a trusted journalist, recognizable on millions of television screens. But beyond fame, Nancy's family life was deeply personal and grounded. Family dinners, weekend calls with grandchildren, and quiet chats over tea were staples of her days. Even those who knew her casually described her as reliable and deeply caring, someone you could count on. And yet, even someone so deeply rooted in family could vanish without a trace. Nancy's life followed patterns. Wake early, breakfast at a precise time, check the mailbox, tend to her garden, read the newspaper. Even her walks around the neighborhood were timed. She was meticulous, orderly, and deeply observant. Neighbors often said she noticed things others didn't: a lost pet, a misplaced item, a new face in the neighborhood. These traits made her disappearance even more perplexing. Someone so aware of her surroundings, someone so careful, could not simply walk away. Nancy loved the small joys of life. Her favorite novels lined the shelves in her home. She had a collection of teas from around the world. Evening sunsets were a ritual, watched from a small armchair near the window. She enjoyed knitting, puzzles, and letters from friends. Her neighbors remember seeing her tending to flowers, feeding birds, or simply waving from her porch. These simple, ordinary joys paint a picture of a life deeply rooted in routine, community, and care. Which is why her sudden disappearance seems almost impossible. People often say calm people are hard to forget. Nancy's calm presence made her approachable. Yet, she was observant, a trait that usually meant safety. She knew her neighbors, remembered small details about their lives, and had a sense for subtle changes around her. This makes us ask, if someone so aware, so careful, could vanish without a trace, what does that say about the unknown forces at play that night? Nancy Guthrie was respected in her community. She helped organize local events, supported neighbors in need, and was often seen as a pillar of calm. Her disappearance shook the community. It wasn't just about a missing grandmother, it was the sudden disappearance of someone who represented safety and predictability. For her neighbors, the streets didn't feel the same. Their routines were disrupted. The idea that danger could touch someone like Nancy was unimaginable. Friends described Nancy as loyal, dependable, and kind-hearted. She wasn't a recluse. She had a circle of close friends who shared meals, hobbies, and life stories. One friend recalled, "She always remembered little things: your birthday, a story you once told, a challenge you faced. You felt seen around her." These connections further highlight the mysterious nature of her disappearance. Someone so connected to her world could not disappear unnoticed under normal circumstances. Nancy's small habits tell a story about her life. She wrote letters by hand, carefully, thoughtfully. She baked pies for neighbors during the holidays. She checked on neighbors regularly. Each of these habits paints a picture of someone organized, cautious, and loving. And yet, when she vanished, these habits vanished too, leaving only questions. By now, we see Nancy as more than a missing person. She is a grandmother, a neighbor, a friend. We understand her routines, her habits, her small joys. This connection makes the disappearance even more chilling. Because it's not just a mystery, it's a life disrupted, a world suddenly empty of someone familiar and loved. And it asks the viewer, if someone like Nancy can vanish, can anyone truly feel safe in their home? We've explored Nancy's life. We've seen her routines, her calm, her predictable ways. Now consider this. Everything about her life suggests stability, predictability, safety. And yet, that very predictability makes her disappearance almost unimaginable. Some mysteries begin quietly, in the details of an ordinary life. Some mysteries shock us precisely because they invade what feels safe. Nancy Guthrie's story is one of those mysteries.